Hey there, welcome to Inside Scoop. I'm Paula Rizzo. Today we're talking all about one of my favorite topics, which is travel. I love to travel, and as a planner, if you know me, I plan for the travel. I love the spontaneousness every once in a while, but a good list, a good packing list does wonders. And also planning out, your travel in advance so that you know where you're going and you can take advantage of the places that you're going to hit up. It's super important. And I know some of you are like, "Oh, that's not fun." Okay, we're going to make it fun, all right? To make sure that you get the most out of your travel as you're getting back out into the world. Having a plan will save you money. It will save you time. And it'll make sure you have a stress-free trip. I'm going to bring on an amazing expert in just a moment. But first, I have a resource for you that I know will be very helpful for this conversation. It's my list-making starter kit. And you can grab it at paularizzo.com/lists. And guess what is in that starter kit? A packing list, a template of how I do all of my packing lists. Because yes, I have a new packing list for every single trip that I take. And that way I know exactly what I need to bring with me. And those lists have changed, right? Now we're in post-COVID world. There are things that you need that you never thought you needed before. And I wrote a whole blog post on this. So if you're on my email list, you will see all of that as well. And I'm also a LinkedIn learning instructor, and I have a whole bunch of courses about productivity and the power of lists to be able to get more done. So you can check it out at linkedinlearning.com, or, there's a QR code there as well that you can click on and just start watching away and learn some more about that. I do have 6 courses over there, and I want to hear from you if you're watching the replay with us. So please leave some questions below in the chat boxes, and tag a friend if you have a friend who is maybe going on a trip soon and is a little bit worried about how they're going to plan it out. Tag them below. We would love to have them join the conversation. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on an old friend. We've known each other for many, many years. He's the founder and CEO of Tripscout. Konrad, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah. I mean, you've been doing this travel thing for a while, and you have now, it used to just be you. Then you got married. Now you have, you and the wife went on a bunch of trips, and now you have 3 boys, little boys that you go all over the world with.
Yeah, no, we were very intentional about, travel is a big part of our life. It was one of the biggest influences on, who we've become. And our kids were entering our life, so we were really excited to share that with them, rather than, us entering into their life and then stopping everything we've known and loved. And, I've looked at it also as, I've looked at it for myself, where travel wasn't just a hobby. It was kind of my version of an education, and I did not want to deprive my kids of that. So, and kids are surprisingly adaptable. I know it's overwhelming to take a kid around the world, or 3 kids, but when you start early, they just think it's normal. So.
Yeah, exactly. They go with the flow. That is a very interesting, it's a mindset switch, because not many people have that mindset of like, hey, you're going to join this family. This is what this family does. We're not going to just do what you want to do, kid. Here's what we're doing, which I love. So I think that's very empowering,
It's certainly the way you travel changes.
Yeah.
But, and your expectations of a trip has to change. But, and also, I think where people get it wrong is if they're bringing the kid, they either want to do everything the kid wants to do, or they do everything the parents want to do. And you would never treat another travel companion like that. It's a balance, right? Where it's like, let's find this cool park and kid museum, but let's also find a really cool restaurant and neighborhood and walk around.
Yes, totally. And, social media is good and bad for many, many reasons. I mean, it's great for travel because you get to see people's pictures, see where they've been, see what, do a lot of planning and research and things just on social media. But how has it changed the travel world through the years?
Yeah, travel or social media has definitely changed travel significantly. And I think there's a lot of obvious bad things that have happened that I think people like to focus on. Like, it's turned a lot of to-do lists as like a checklist to run through and take a photo in front of it. It has created a desire to do something for external purposes as opposed to for personal reasons. And so there's a bit of like showmanship, I guess, and sometimes in people's travel. And it certainly has caused over tourism, where everyone is wanting to flock to the same types of destinations or spots. But if you take a step back from that, it has radically opened up a full option of destinations, shown things that you can do. It allows you to plug in and connect with people that you would have never otherwise. I like to give the example of 10 or 20 years ago. If you went to New York City, everyone's trip looked exactly the same.
Yeah.
You would stay somewhere in like Midtown or Times Square. You'd go to the Statue of Liberty. You'd go to the Empire State Building. You'd, ask your concierge where to get a slice of pizza. You'd get one. Like, you literally had the top 10 Lonely Planet checklist, and everyone did the exact same thing. Now, if you look at people's trips to New York City, they're checking out street art in Bushwick, Brooklyn. They're going on, round the world food tours in Queens. They're doing hip hop tours in the Bronx. They're eating and listening to great music in Harlem. Like, that would have never happened 20 years ago.
Right.
And so I just think it's radically opened up the beauty of what a destination actually is for the people that live there, not just kind of like your top 10 TripAdvisor list.
Sure.
And it also just has allowed you to know what's going on there. You can connect with the local artists, the creators, the bloggers, the foodies. Like, you can just follow them and see what they're doing. Like, you would have never had that access before social media.
And it is nice to be able to say, oh, so-and-so ate pizza at this place. Now I want to go to that place, and so it changes things for local businesses too,
Totally.
Yeah.
And it gives, and so many of us are visual, like, we want visual inspiration. So
Yes.
like, a good way to see what you want your trip to look like is by looking at other people's trips and seeing if you want that. So I think the positives far outweigh the negatives, and it's one of the most powerful tools. I always say that Instagram is probably the most important travel company that most people don't ever think of as a travel company.
Yeah. And what is your perspective on planning? Because, especially now you're traveling with little kids, there's a lot of planning that has to happen. What's your take on it? How do you make sure that you get to do the things that you want to do when you're going to a new place?
Yeah, you touched on it in the intro about making sure you plan. Like, I see so many people either way under planning or way over planning. So there's a nice art in the middle of planning the things that are important, yet still leaving room for serendipity.
Yeah.
So I'll answer it sort of tactically and philosophically. I think philosophically, the most important thing is to, really set an intention. What do you want to do on this trip? What are you hoping to accomplish? And like, what is important to you? Don't just go see all the things that you think you're supposed to see. If you're going to Paris and you don't like art and you don't like museums, you don't need to go to the Louvre. Now, if you do like art and museums, Paris is one of the best cities in the world for that. So for someone else, you might want to go to galleries. You might want to, if you're really into fitness, like, run through neighborhoods and go explore the city in a way that you really would like. Second thing, philosophically, I would say, we touched on it, is like, don't overplan. Like, leave room for serendipity. I have seen expectations kill way more trips than like bad weather or anything else. So, just go in with an open mind. Don't try to see the city or the country as you've envisioned it in your mind. Like, be open to experiencing it as it is. And, I think all the best travel stories, like, when I build my itinerary, I look at these like, all right, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go here and I'm going to check out this neighborhood, as really like flagpoles to like go to, but knowing that the entire, the trip, the things I'm going to go home and tell stories about is going to be what happens in between those two things. It's the neighborhood you've never heard of and you happen to walk through to get to that art gallery or that restaurant you're thinking of. That's where the magic happens. So make sure you're leaving room for that. The next thing I would say is, like, don't look at reviews that other travelers have left, unless they're like a really good friend who just travels like you and things like
you're
you.
Similar. That's
like, so many people go to TripAdvisor and they say, what does Joe from Tampa think is an authentic restaurant in Rome? Like, go find local food bloggers, go ask locals while you're there. The amount of times that I'm sitting in some European square in front of a bunch of restaurants and you see every tourist looking at their phone on Yelp and TripAdvisor to see which one they should go to. Meanwhile, if you just looked up you would see, this is packed with locals, and this is empty, and this is packed with tourists. Like,
Sure.
it's probably not hard to
They're
figure out.
telling you, right? Exactly.
Exactly. And so with that, like, so then you go into like how do you plan? So you don't want to you don't. We talked about who you don't want to talk to. We talked about or listen to. We talked about like what you how you want to plan but not over plan. The next thing I would do is I would go to Instagram. This is how I plan. I go to Instagram and I find who are the top chefs, who are the coolest bartenders, who are the best artists, who are the local bloggers, and I just scroll through and stalk their feed.
Nice.
You know, like I want to know, where is a chef after their shift going to get a late night snack? Where's the bartender going to get drinks with their friends? Like what is the local food blogger or the local like barista blogger? Like where are their favorite coffee shops and restaurants?
Do some stalking. Do a little online stalking. I love it. You know, I actually did this. You know, I just returned from a trip to Paris, and after a long time I had not been there. You know, I've been to Paris many times, but was not there. And unfortunately, my husband and I got COVID and we got stuck there. So we did not get to go to all the places, but I do, I had some new ones earmarked because I do follow some local chefs, and I was watching to see where they went with their friends, and I had them all bookmarked, and I was so excited for another time. I will get to them, but yes, it's really important too, because you know, hey, these are people who, where would they go? They're around food all day, every day. Where are they going to spend their shift there? You know, once the shift is over, it's really important to see like where are these reviews coming from? Who are the people who are putting this out there? So it's
too bad now you have a good excuse to go to Paris. So again, so there's no
totally.
It's all good.
Exactly. But yeah, I love the idea of using Instagram for, you know, that sort of inspiration, but also to find, you know, some of those pieces. For me, you know, when I build out an itinerary and I start thinking about it, I do the same things where I'll just say like, hey, here are the things I definitely want to do, and then here's some stuff that maybe I want to do. But if I'm doing a European trip or something that's like a longer trip, what I've learned through the years is to not plan the first day and to not plan the last day. Because 100%. I never really want to do anything, you know, you just kind of want to be spontaneous. You might not feel like doing something. You might be jet lagged. You might, you know, so building in some of that space in the itinerary is really important and not innate. I like to plan. So, you know, I've had to push myself to do that piece.
100%. And I like how you said it. This is really important to know what is really important to you and what are just other things that are there. So that way, if you are bored and you're wandering around, you're like, oh, go check out that coffee shop. Like I like to just pin all those things onto my map. But if what I've seen is that when people try to plan every second of their trip, something happens, you know, crazy traffic they didn't expect. And now they're stressed out because it's going to derail their plan. Or they meet some really cool person in a bar, and rather than sit there and talk for 2 hours and really get an experience they'll remember forever, they're like, oh no, I got to go see that other museum or tour or thing that was on my list. Otherwise I won't feel accomplished. So building in that space is critical.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that you mentioned the maps, because I do the same thing. So I'm sort of planning trips always, even if I'm not planning on going to that destination anytime soon. But if I hear a review or somebody posts that they just went to this great restaurant in Rome or something, I put it on my, Google Maps on my phone, and I put a little note about who said it, so that if I'm happen to be there or I'm in that area walking by or something, it's on my map and I can say, oh, what was this? Oh, this is the thing Konrad said he did. This is cool. I should go to that.
Totally.
Yeah. So what about packing lists? Because I love my lists. What's your take on the packing list? How do you do it? And are there any things that you found through the years that are, must have? I mean, besides from like diapers and stuff, because you got so many kids, but
Yeah. So I'll answer it before kids.
Okay.
I'm probably the opposite of you, and with your list, the number one thing I would say is whatever you're packing, pack less.
Yeah.
You don't need it. You don't need to think of every scenario. The few things that come up, you can always figure out how to do it or buy it locally. I actually went, before kids, I went on just this constant purging towards minimalism. And I got to the point where I would go on like a 3-week trip around Western Africa with a bag this big. And what I would do is, and like my key was, I try to be like a minimalist with clothes. I have a pair of socks, one extra pair of socks, extra pair of boxers, an extra shirt. And I would just, as I got home, I would always bring like a little thing of detergent.
Mm-hmm.
And as I got home, I'd wash it in the sink, hang it up, and wear the other pair. And so I would just rotate. So I would have a lot less clothes. And I still, usually bring a little thing of detergent or buy a little thing of detergent and just try to pack as minimal as possible. Now, when I had kids, I then like exploded. Right? Yeah. I went from, carrying what probably people carry more on one day at work than, on a big trip. And then I turned into like what you would expect, like, Real Housewives of Dubai, like carrying suitcases and packing plays and toys. But then we quickly realized, like, we don't need this, and we purge it down. And so now, like, we bring like one little toy, one book, like, and we keep it pretty minimal. And what we found, with that is just, if you forget something, or if you end up needing that, extra diapers or whatever, it becomes a cool experience traveling. Like everyone talks about like travel like a local. And the thing that people miss is that you're not actually traveling like a local. You know what a local does? A local goes to the grocery stores, goes to work,
they
has
do
a
laundry,
board routine, sits down with their family. So like if you're out of toothpaste, and you have to go to and you're in a foreign country, it becomes an adventure. Like you find a local shop, you figure out how to communicate. It becomes a thing to do on its own. So I would say that don't plan for every occasion, pack less. And it's so much more easy when you can just like, I will refuse to check a bag ever, unless it's like car seats or something that you have to. But it's just so much easier to travel around. It's less stressful. You throw things on your back and
you will find things though. I mean, and again, this is a mindset that not everyone has. So I love that you're bringing it up, but it is very much like how wonderful that this happened. So I have to go get deodorant in some strange store, and figure out what I would like. Like this is part of the experience too, that most people don't think about. They think, oh, I want to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It's like, no, part of the experience is going and figuring out how you're going to ask for deodorant in the store, like that is travel, right?
And it is, I didn't start that way. Like I remember when I did the digital nomad life before it was a term. And I like traveled with like a keyboard for my laptop, and I traveled with all these things, and I like just slowly whittled it down. And then I realized, like, I got to the point, I was like, how do I travel with no luggage, or no backpack even? And eventually, right when I got to the point where I was like really perfecting that, of course, we added kids to the mix, and that restarted. But I think like realize that that's often the most stressful part of like planning for a trip.
Yeah.
And I'm much rather, it takes any business trip or any actual trip, it takes me probably 5 minutes. Like I throw 2 black t-shirts and I'm good to go.
It's like less stress that way. I
spend my time like, getting ahead on work, or like reading a bunch of blogs about the place I'm going, or like just relaxing and getting into the pre-vacation mode. I think your trip actually starts before you take your first step out the door.
100%.
And so you might as well get in that mindset earlier and not stress yourself out by packing too much.
That is why I do like planning ahead though, because I do feel like I'm getting into like the travel spirit early, and then starting to like put that together, and it kind of extends the travel for you, and it makes it more fun for me, at least. I really enjoy that.
We've, I think that like when you look at the average trip planner spends 30 hours planning each trip. And what I've realized from really getting deep into the travel business and like talking to our customers, like that is an extension of the trip.
Yes.
Your trip is when you're researching, your trip is when you're doing your packing list, when you're packing, like that whole thing is your trip. So don't think of it as a 1 or 2 week trip. Think of it as, however many months it's on your mind.
Yeah. I enjoy it that way. I think it's more fun, and then afterwards it's all your photos that you took and everything, and all the recommendations that you have. Every time I come back from a trip, I make a list of all my recommendations, all the places that I really loved, because you think you'll remember and you
Yeah.
won't.
Yep.
And you never do. And then people ask you, "Oh, I saw your pictures and what did you like?" And it's like, I don't know, what did I even do? So I try to tack
Yeah.
that on to my trip planning as well. Just for myself too. If I go back, at least I have the information.
Totally.
I want to ask you a little bit about Tripscout, and because you and I have known each other since before Tripscout was a thing, and now it has evolved. I mean, during the pandemic, unfortunately, people were not traveling, and so you have built a whole community of people who love to travel, who did not go anywhere for quite a while, and now people are back out into the world. So, give us a little detail about what's happening there, and I know there's a very exciting announcement that you have to be able to help people to travel more without breaking the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we started as a trip planning app. So all the things that we had talked about, where we're like, how do you discover local bloggers and local creators and local artists, and who should you be reading? Because, you don't want to, like I gave the example of just reading some review from some random person who went there once. So we built a trip planning app that allows, we curate all the best content from around the world, put it in one place. It has, we have social media posts and YouTube videos, the blogs, and we've tagged every point of interest they mentioned. So as what you mentioned about building your map, you can easily do that while reading content and tapping on a place and saving it to a map.
Mm-hmm.
And that has gone really well. It's the #1 trip planning app in the App Store. As of right now, if you search travel in the App Store, it's actually the #1 organically ranked travel app, just because, we realized that travel, even if you only traveled a few times a year, was a daily activity. People think about it every day. And, we really wanted to be there for the traveler. And in the process, we realized that everyone was starting their trip planning search on Instagram and not Google. And so we built a real community for almost every major travel destination and travel topic. And so, we built a network of social media brands. We have over 100. And we've grown to about 30 million followers across that account. And, really was like, look, if people are starting their planning from Instagram, we want to be there to help them. And, as we really dove into our customers, and we found that, why don't they travel more? And
right.
Everyone says like they want to travel more. What's your biggest regret? I didn't travel more. Like, what would you want to do if you could do anything or won the lottery? I would travel more. Like, it was such a part of people's identity and such a meaningful part of their disposable time and income. But they were never doing as much as they wanted. And there really were two reasons. One was vacation time, and two was budget. And we're very excited because now post-pandemic, like the vacation time is really starting to shift away for a lot of people because they can work remotely. So you don't have to take vacation. You could just go work from Portugal for a month and just work full time and, live there for a little while. So like, we're really excited how that was shifting, but the cost thing was getting even worse. So there's a couple things like, post-pandemic travel boom, rising inflation. There's a lot of reasons why the cost of travel right now, the cost of flights and the cost of hotels, which are the two biggest expenses, has gone up and up and up. And so we built a hotel booking product, which is the first hotel booking product for Instagram, that will save people 25 to 75% off almost like a lot of the best hotels in the world. And it's really interesting how, we've been able to do it. And just like to unpack, because I think a lot of people see like, oh, great hotel deals, but everyone sells the same hotels at the same price.
Yes.
What we learned by getting really deep in the travel industry is all of the online travel agents that, the booking sites and all the hotel websites, they're all bound by these things called price parity agreements. So they have to sell the exact same room at the same minimum price, even though sometimes there is like an 80% profit margin or 60% profit margin baked into that booking. And so what we realized is that the key part of that was you had to publicly advertise that rate.
I see.
Privately, you could do whatever you wanted. So if you were the merchant of record that handled the booking. And so when we realized that we had a community of 30 million travelers on Instagram who we can have a private direct message conversation with. And especially since you're now allowed to do these things through chatbots and on Instagram. So we launched, became an online travel agent. And we now, if you send a message to hotel, so like @hotel on Instagram with the word hotel, we'll send you back a private link that's not shareable. It is not, you can't search for it. You can't find it. It's private to you over an Instagram message that will show you, thousands of hotels in any place you're going, and you will find deals up to 75% off. The other big thing about that is because we're doing this to our organic audience, we're not baking in the same, Priceline and Expedia, they combined spend $12 billion a year in advertising to just try to attract customers.
Sure.
Because we have our organic audience, we are able to just instead of spending money on marketing, we're passing all those savings to the customer and letting that, spread through just word of mouth and loyalty.
Yeah. Well, it's great. So if, people go to Instagram and go to hotel, right? Go there and then private message that Instagram account, the word hotel, right?
Yep.
You will be sent a link, and then that link, you can then look and see all of the different discounts for all the different places. And these are places all over the world, right?
It's everywhere in the world. It's exactly what you would expect with most of the booking sites you're familiar with.
Yep.
Except you'll see that our prices are meaningfully lower.
Awesome. That is such like a great progression, to be able, but you still do have all of the inspiration and articles and things that people can check out about the destinations, but now they can also book, which is great.
Correct.
They get to the next part. Well, I'm really excited for you. I've always been a fan, and I've been traveling and following your recommendations and download the app. And I've been a guinea pig for the testing sites, and so I'm happy to continue to do that and get the information out there. But to get people traveling too, I think people are a little bit intimidated after the pandemic and being home for so long, and so it feels a little bit different. We're a little rusty, but this is a good way to kind of get back out there and start doing. Any last advice for people who are maybe have not traveled in a really long time?
So you touched on something that I've been quite passionate about, where a lot of people were just locked up for 2 years and have not traveled and are now trying to get back out in the world. And it's a good time to do that. The countries need it, destinations need it, you need it. But realize that you might not be the same person and the same traveler and have the same comfort zone as you did going into the pandemic. And that's okay. Like, give yourself some grace. I'm a big believer you should always do things slightly outside of your comfort zone, but know that your comfort zone might shift. And so your first trip post-pandemic, if you haven't gone on one, it's okay if you want to avoid certain things or you feel awkward in certain situations. Know that that's normal. Know that everyone is doing that, and know that you'll quickly adapt back to how you were, but maybe it's on the second trip or third trip or fourth trip. So I think it's just really about get back out there, give yourself some grace if who you are has changed a little bit or your comfort levels have changed, and know that it will come back quickly.
You might be surprised. You might be, there might be something new that you didn't know that you love to do, and now you found it in a new destination or whatever it is. But how will you know unless you try? So.
Totally. And right now, travel is expensive. So I think I gave you the solution for hotels. We'll reduce your budget significantly. And then when it comes to flights, the other big expense, be open to new destinations. I think most people go into booking a trip where they say, where do I want to go? Bam. I picked a country. When do I want to go? Here's the vacation time. And they kind of back in, then what are the flight prices? But if you reverse that and you say, okay, where can I fly from my home city the cheapest?
Right.
What time of the month or day of the week is typically the best price? Because some places are busier on the weeks or the weekends, depending on the type of place it is. And then back in to where you're going to go if cost is a concern. And that way you're able to just be a little bit more strategic and pick places that are based on the theme that you want and the cost budget that you want.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, most of us are like, cool, I want to go somewhere to go to the beach and to hike and to be in a jungle. And you think Costa Rica, but
Right.
Panama would also give you the exact same experience, or Nicaragua. And so you don't really care where exactly you're going. You care
Sure.
about what kind of trip you want to have.
Yeah, I love that. Another switch in mindset. It's very much because that happens too. You plan it all out and then you're like, okay, well, let's look at the airfare. Last thing you do.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? I don't think I can do this, because then
Right.
it's like insane. But reverse engineer it, do the airfare first and then go backwards. I love that. That's an awesome tip. Thank you so much for all of this. And I want everyone to check out the Instagram account, go to obviously to your website, and we'll just show that one last time so that people know that if you go to the hotel on Instagram and then message the word hotel, you will get a link, and then you'll be able to, scan and see what it is that you might want to do, hotel wise, and get some really great deep discounts. Konrad, thank you so much for being here. It's a blast keeping up with you and watching your journey. Thank you for all your tips.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast following you as well, and you have constantly pushed me to be more productive and more organized, which
I love it.
I often need. So thank you so much.
Awesome, of course. And I have a free gift for all of you watching. My list making starter kit. You can grab it at paularizzo.com/lists. Lots and lots of lists on there, as well as a packing list. There is a template there for a packing list so that you can get your travels off right. And so thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.